What is going on YouTube? Today I want to give you the definitive guide into how to upgrade your weapons and blueprints. Alright guys, in order to actually upgrade your weapons, you will need workbenches. There are actually 3 tiers of workbenches, and the tier of workbench will determine what tier of weapon you can produce, and the tier of weapon you produce will determine how high you can calibrate, i.e. upgrade that weapon. Now, in order to get access to these gear workbenches, you will unlock them from your Memtic screen. The first gear workbench you can get actually comes from the level 1 Awakening. The second one comes from the level 3 Ascendance, and the final workbench comes from the level 5 Enlightenment. So now that you've unlock your workbenches and set them down, we're going to look at calibration and explain a little bit about what calibration is and how you use it to make your weapon stronger in Once Human. So for this example, I'm actually going to show you the difference in all 3 workbenches, and it'll help you really understand what they are and why it's important to upgrade to the next level of workbench as soon as you can. So if you look right here, we are in the level 1 workbench. And if you look and I pick this Desert Eagle, if I go to craft one of these weapons, I am locked to only tier 1 and tier 2 weapons. And as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of base damage difference between the tier 1 and the tier 2. So for the most part, you will want to try to upgrade your weapon to the next tier as soon as possible. One thing to note is not only do you need the workbench to be able to craft the weapons at different tiers, but you will need different resources. The higher tier weapon will require resources from higher tier biomes. So if we look at the intermediate workbench, you can see that we can craft gear up to a level 4. So typically as the seasons progress, you will be able to unlock the intermediate workbench fairly quick, and you will have access to tier 4 blueprints. However, most of the time, you will not have access to tier 4 materials the moment that you gain access to the tier 4 blueprint. This is an intentional design, and it seems like around week 2, you do finally get access to go get the tier 4 and tier 5 resources. So if we go over to the advanced workbench, you can actually really see how much the tier of your weapon matters. A tier 1 Desert Eagle does 115 base damage. A tier 5 Desert Eagle does 675 base damage. So this is really a lot of information. The main takeaway here is you should always upgrade your weapon tier when it's available and you are able to farm the resources. Now we're going to talk about weapon calibration. Now, what is weapon calibration? Essentially, it is upgrading your weapon. In order to upgrade your weapon, you need to go to your workbench. Now, there are 2 ways to get to the calibration screen. The one is simply to just, in my case, press J, and it will take you right to the calibration screen. The other option is just to enter the workbench like normal. From here, you can click on the calibration tab at the top. Now, when you go to calibrate your weapon, the resources required will depend on the tier of weapon that you're calibrating. A tier 1 weapon will typically use resources that you can find in a tier 1 zone. So for this example, we're going to look at the stun baton here. As you can see, this is a tier 3 weapon, and it is ready to be calibrated. In order to calibrate this weapon, essentially you just click on it. Once you click on it, it will bring up the calibration screen. Now this screen will tell you the materials required and how much energy or currency it takes to upgrade it to the next tier. There's also something else to keep in mind when you look at this, and that is the disassembly return. This will explain to you how much of the materials you are eligible to get back if you disassemble this piece of gear at that calibration level. This doesn't seem like that big of a deal in the early game, but in later stages of the game, you may be inclined to disassemble your weapon, and you need to be able to figure out how much of the resource you will get back when you disassemble that weapon. So as you can read here, it says normal items will return 100% of their materials when they are disassembled. Rare will return 70%, and legendary will only return 50% of the items when they are disassembled. So now that we've went over all of that, we'll go ahead and we will calibrate the stun baton from level 3 to level 4. We will use the materials it shows here, and you can see it upgraded our damage to 573. And if we calibrate it another time, it will go up to 591. You can also see that it changed the amount of resources that we need and the quantity of each one. This does scale up as the weapon gets higher in tiers. All right, so the last thing that you need to understand is actually weapon blueprints. This is essentially the grind that you will be engaged with for your entire career in Once Human. To get to weapon and armor blueprints, hit the I key and click on the Blueprints tab. From here, you will see all of the blueprints that you have available for both weapons and armors. So we're going to focus on weapons, but just keep in mind that this works the exact same way for armor. So each weapon has a set number of fragments that you need to unlock that blueprint to allow you to craft it. Typically, if you have the amount of blueprints you need, the puzzle piece will light up to indicate that you can unlock that weapon. Now, if you have some blueprint pieces, but not enough to unlock the weapon, you will see that the little wheel will show a partially filled symbol indicating that you have some fragments. In this case, I have 10 of the 60 fragments I need to unlock this weapon. Each blueprint has a star rank system, or blueprint tiers, if you will, that you need to be aware of. And the maximum level of stars that you can unlock on these blueprints is determined by that blueprint's rarity. So you can see here, a green blueprint goes to 3 stars, a blue goes to 4, a purple goes to 5, and a gold goes all the way up to 6. The main takeaway here is the higher the star ranking on that blueprint, the higher the base stats of that weapon will be when you craft a new weapon from that blueprint. So for this example, we went into the Scars blueprint, and you can see here that a tier 1 blueprint Scar has a base damage of 264, a tier 2 has a base damage of 277, a tier 3 goes to 290, a tier 4 goes to 303, tier 5 goes to 316, and a tier 6 goes all the way up to 330. Keep in mind that these are the base values, and this is the number that your upgrades will scale off of when you calibrate the weapon. So now that we've covered what a blueprint tier is, the next question is, how do I actually upgrade my blueprints? Well, if you notice in the bottom corner of every blueprint, there's a word. This one says Juggernaut, this one says Stranger, this one says Beyonder. What that means is that is what type of weapon that blueprint is. And where that matters is when it comes to upgrade the blueprint. If you click on this box here, this will actually show you all of your blueprint fragments. And it's broken down into the blueprint type. So you have the Huntsman, the Wanderer, Operator, Juggernaut, Beyonder, and Stranger. You also have them between locked and unlocked. And essentially unlocked means weapons that you have currently unlocked. And locked ones means these are blueprints for weapons that you have not unlocked. Now, where this all matters is if you click a weapon blueprint for a weapon that you currently have unlocked, and essentially the enhancement tab is where you level the blueprint up to the next tier. So for this example, I actually want to look at my stun baton. As you can see here, my stun baton is an operator type weapon. If we click our blueprint fragments, we can look and see that we have 60 additional stun baton fragments laying around, 100 of these MP5 fragments, and then we have an additional 60 of this Glock 17. We have this submachine gun, and we have, I think this is a light machine gun. So we have a lot of blueprint fragments laying around that we aren't using. So if I right click the stun baton and I come into it, we can actually just go ahead and use the additional stun baton blueprints that we have to upgrade it. So as you see, I clicked on the stun baton blueprints, and it's going to cost me 23 of the blueprints to hit the 450 XP that I need in order to move this to the next level. So it said I was going to have some wasted experience. So let's go ahead and do this. This will waste way less XP. If we hold F, we will enhance this. And as you can see, it's actually upgraded our stun baton to a tier 2 stun baton. Now, if we want, we can actually look at doing it a third time. And you can see here, we can get it to a tier 3 by using the last 38 we had of these and 46 of this 96 here. And now we have a tier 3 blueprint for this weapon. And that's it, guys. That is the definitive guide for everything you need to know about crafting, creating, and upgrading your gear in Once Human. But hopefully this guide helps you in the long run maximize your efforts when it comes to gearing up in Once Human. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.